Hey everybody, welcome back to Georgia Mag on Tommy Time. Well, it looks like the rendering is as bad or worse than we all were afraid of. And now we've got the revelation of a Northeast Georgia Water Authority sponsored by a lot of everybody's favorite around here, from what I understand, and have even had my own path cross with many years back. Not when he was state senator, but nonetheless, State Senator Frank Ginn. The time I'm personally referring to was still in his time as Franklin County manager. But I'll get to that in a little bit. Clearly, the immediate concern is the Franklin Springs meeting coming up tomorrow. Will be today for a lot of you when you eventually see this. I'm making this at 10:30 at night on Monday, April 14th. But I'm sorry to say that what I've seen develop and caught up with today from over the weekend doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. What I was trying to warn against in a measured way, I guess maybe I'm just not going to have to be so measured from now on. We've got people that are involved in this thing that, quite frankly, we don't want to have anything to do with in Franklin County. These are environmentalist people who are pressing a leftist agenda. It's the proverbial Green New Deal agenda. It is an effort probably associated, if not outright, managed by Democrat politicians in the state. Obviously, I was concerned, as I said the last time I was on, about Warnock being at the county board meeting. I've gotten some indication as to how that happened. I'm going to be careful here because I'm working from limited sources at the moment, but regardless, to say, you just look at how the campaign's being put together, and it's got a heavy green, environmental, tree hugger focus, left leaning 100%. And although I've only been back home for 5 years, I grew up here, and like I think a lot of you watching this, that's not on folks' agenda around here. And quite frankly, um, even though this is a Franklin Springs issue right now, this is something that our leaders across the county, the commission, the other mayors, probably want to lead on from across the board, and that is, we don't want anything being done here that it in effect represents the cure being worse than the disease. I'm all for people showing up tomorrow and taking it to the city council to the degree they're able to, without uh, uh, causing undue disturbance or violating certainly any laws. But um, the focus needs to be kept on the rendering plant is being proposed for the wrong location. That should be the sole focus. All of these other arguments over the orange spotted snipe, or, you know, um, how many micrograms of this, that, and the other are in the river, and, you know, uh, how many little gremlins can dance on the edge of a needle being drug across the top of the water, uh, for one, shouldn't be the immediate concern, because, quite frankly, just like when we were fighting and this was the success, this is what kept everybody together, I firmly believe, the last time on the rendering plant 4 years ago, 5 years ago, however long it's 4 years ago, was that it was in the wrong place. It was in one of the prime areas for prime economic real estate, prime area for economic development in Franklin County. And that is exactly where this is being talked about, just in a different location, at one of the busiest intersections of Franklin County. If not the busiest. I think I've been told that's the busiest. I think it's my second time around repeating that, but I believe I'm correct on that, on 29 and 145. And there's full stop. That's the reason not to have the rendering plant there, and the reason to oppose it. By, open yourself up to the EPA and the Environmental Protection Division, and save the snipe, and let's make sure that we got river water that we can compare to coming out of a Brita filter or something like this. That is not where our focus should be. And the reason that it shouldn't be there is because if we permit this argument to be carried by these extreme environmental agenda folks, which will, if we're not careful, will be led by lawyers and their liberal nonprofit organizations, interest groups, as you frequently heard them referred to, and they would love nothing better than to stake a flag in ruby red northeast Georgia, Franklin County, and say, look what we were able to do in the height of MAGA, in MAGA country, for our environmental agenda. And you know what you're left with? No further disincentives for industry wanting to come to Franklin County, less jobs. You get the rooftops from the development anyway, and nobody can afford to pay the taxes, and you're left with no takers on industry, and everything that everything that everyone has been trying to avoid for the last 5 years that I've been back here is out the window. Cannot let these environmentalist extremist groups get the upper hand, and they're going to, the way this is looking right now, because I see a website out here that is actively soliciting environmentalists to come here to Franklin County over a local issue. No, we need to handle this with our people for our reasons. And our reasons are because it is not good for the long-term economic development of Franklin County. The long-term solution is addressing it through some sort of strategy that needs to come through county government. Obviously, I know that the mayors have been pretty assertive in saying that they have, in their ways, been doing this, but it needs to be coordinated. And that probably involves looking at your IBA, because just personally, the IBA doesn't represent Franklin County effectively right now. But again, another argument for another video. But what we can't do is lash ourselves to absolute job killers, which are these outside, probably from Atlanta, city environmental lawyers and lobbyists and interest groups, leftist, liberal, nonprofit organizations who are just looking again to score victory and stake a flag in Franklin County. Franklin County, if I'm not mistaken, well, I know I'm not mistaken about this, this has been a while back. I haven't been involved in chasing these numbers the way that I used to, but at the time of the election of George W. Bush, I'm sorry, at the time of the election of Barack Obama, in an election where John McCain lost pretty handily, 2008. Although John McCain won Georgia that year, Franklin County voted more Republican in a year that a Democrat won than it had the 4 years before when George W. Bush won his second term. So, and I really don't think, from a conservative standpoint, I believe Trump won this county 86%, something like that. So, what's being set up right now is a billboard for Atlanta liberals, Washington liberals to say, look, we've got an opportunity here to plant our flag in Ruby Red, Georgia, and get ourselves a foothold for California-ing, if I could say it that way. I didn't quite get that out right, but Californianizing what was once a solidly red state. And quite frankly, I still believe Georgia is a solidly red state. I believe that the voter fraud that has occurred has been exposed, I think, pretty evidently over the last couple of election cycles, led to us having closer elections than we otherwise would have had, and led to us getting the source of one of the sources of the problem that we're facing right now, which is, I think it's pretty likely, a Democrat senator who is probably sticking his nose in where it doesn't belong. So, at least sticking his nose in from a standpoint where the people are not interested in the solution that's being offered, which is bringing a bunch of government in here to establish a bunch of environmental policies and regulations that are going to kill business and industry. And it's clear that we've got organizations, and before it's over with, lobbyists and lawyers who are going to try to come in here and do it on those grounds. In politics, there are no coincidences. So I'm going to leave it there tonight. I'm going to try to keep it short. I think I went fairly long, and I know people probably get scared off. I get much past 15 minutes or so. So absolutely, folks, get over there tomorrow night. Make your voice heard, as is frequently the calling card, cry, whatever the right phrase is there. And just be wary, however, that there are folks that are trying to take advantage of and manipulate this situation. And two, I just realized I didn't get back to the Frank Ginn stuff on the Water Authority. I'll get back to that one at some point. The bottom line on it is it's very clear from the way the legislation is written that that's rigged to basically make the rural counties and the authority the suppliers, and the urban counties the users and the sellers, and they will always outvote these rural counties, namely Franklin and Madison, who will mainly be the suppliers. And once again, Franklin County will be on the receiving, the bad receiving end. So again, that's another video for another time. I appreciate you checking in tonight, or whenever you end up watching this. I probably need to do a better job of what I'm going to try to do right now, and ask you to like, subscribe, and share and follow, and all those things that are available to you in whatever platform you get this on, which I'll be posting. Normally try to post this on Facebook, and obviously it's on my YouTube channel. But just, we need to be wary of strangers bearing gifts. thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.